one specific gap, one solution that you found, and what are the limitations as well within the private sector's current approaches to dealing with extremism, and on the other side, what are the limitations for public sectors in understanding the gaming ecosystem as a whole?
Thanks. Thanks for bringing up that paper too. It was a fun one to work on because we spoke with a bunch of folks from public sector as well as from gaming companies. We got an interesting sample of people's challenges and opportunities in the space. On the public sector side, there's a deep lack of understanding around what modern games and gaming ecosystems are, right? Games are social. Often gaming spaces involve many, many layers. So you're not just playing the game, you're also playing and engaging with all these adjacent platforms and servers and fora that are played alongside the game itself or engaged with alongside the game. So you have this massive social, vibrant ecosystem. That's not really understood by most public policymakers. And there's still this really unfortunate old bias that games probably just cause violence because there's violence in video games, which is not the case, right? Debunked many, many, many times now over the years. So providing a baseline understanding of what gaming spaces are is core to creating better regulatory or enforcement or monitoring or positive engagement. Like any sort of engagement depends on this fundamental understanding of what gaming ecosystems are. That's on the public side. On the gaming sector side, there's this related fear of stoking a moral panic around games. So if you think back to the Columbine school shooting in the late 90s, that kicked off this massive moral panic around games. The perpetrator did play Doom, but that had nothing to do with the fact that he went on to go and shoot up a school. This was based on faulty reporting at the time that was later debunked, but it stoked a massive moral panic around games and Dungeons and Dragons that was incredibly toxic and destructive for players and for companies. So there's this fear of stoking moral panic. So what gaming companies need to do is recognize that they're right now about 5 to 10 years behind social media platforms in terms of how they engage with toxic content, with extremism, with mis and disinformation. So there's a need to recognize that all of the social elements in gaming platforms require thoughtful engagement or users' experiences, and frankly, to get ahead of the regulatory curve that will eventually catch up. So the answer there is to acknowledge the problem, recognize that it's not inherent to games, but that there is a genuine issue with malicious actors exploiting gaming for their own ends. And to ignore that creates a less safe environment and one that ultimately is much more at risk, both of being exploited and of being over-regulated or regulated in a really unhelpful way.